When the humans joined the intergalactic war against the Zorgon Empire, the alien aggressors saw their warships blasted to atoms, their slave armies disintegrated, and their evil conquests brought to a violent halt, all within mere hours of Earth mobilizing its forces. Such is the awesome power of human vengeance when provoked. Shortly before the fate of the Zorgons was sealed, the desperate Rakari High Council had come to Earth seeking military aid against their ancient nemesis. For centuries, the technologically advanced Rakari had battled the ruthless Zorgons across the stars in a brutal war of attrition. Despite superior numbers and firepower, losses mounted as Zorgon battle thralls crashed over Rakari defenses in savage waves. In a final gambit to turn the tide, Supreme Commander Murloc, leader of the Rakari, dispatched his top diplomats and scientists on a perilous trip to a newly discovered world, Earth. Arriving in New York City, the alien delegation sparked widespread panic until a special team led by ex-Navy SEAL and CIA operative David Bryant made contact. Murloc laid humanity's options bare. Join the fight and gain the Rakari's gratitude and technology, or risk the Zorgons conquering the galaxy unopposed and enslaving all in their path, including Earth. As negotiations stalled, Zorgon infiltrators, disguised as Rakari, bombed New York, obliterating the Statue of Liberty and slaughtering thousands. Humanity would have to act, and fast, or fall like so many other worlds before the Zorgon onslaught. As rescue teams sifted through the rubble of the destroyed Statue of Liberty, Bryant and his CIA operatives scoured security camera footage and intercepted alien transmissions. The truth quickly became clear. The Rakari were not responsible for the attack. Zorgon infiltrators, surgically altered to mimic the Rakari, had orchestrated the bombing to sabotage the alliance negotiations. "Those Zorgon bastards," Bryant growled, slamming his fist on the table. "They knew the Rakari were coming to us for help. They wanted to turn us against each other." Armed with this evidence, Bryant stormed into the United Nations, interrupting an emergency Security Council session. "The Rakari didn't attack us," he declared, presenting his findings. "It was the Zorgons all along. They're trying to divide us, to keep us weak. We need to stand with the Rakari, not against them." Heated debates erupted among the council members. Some argued for retaliation against the Rakari, unwilling to trust the word of aliens. Others saw the wisdom in Bryant's words, recognizing the Zorgons as the true enemy. In the end, reason prevailed. The council voted to forge a military alliance with the Rakari, pooling their strength to face the Zorgon threat together. The call to arms echoed across the globe. The United States, China, Russia, and the European Union led the charge, mobilizing their armies, navies, and air forces. Millions of soldiers, sailors, and airmen prepared for the fight of their lives. Supreme Commander Murloc proved true to his word. Rakari ships arrived in Earth's orbit, bearing gifts of advanced weaponry and technology, energy shields to protect cities and military bases, plasma rifles and cannons to match the Zorgons' firepower, faster-than-light communication devices to coordinate strategy across the stars. Human scientists and engineers worked frantically to integrate the alien tech into Earth's military machine. Factories churned out new fighters and warships equipped with Rakari shielding and weapons, soldiers trained with plasma rifles, marveling at their destructive power. As Earth girded itself for war, Murloc and his delegation returned to Rakari space, rallying their own forces for the coming storm. A joint offensive was planned, a hammer blow to shatter the Zorgon Empire once and for all. But the Zorgons had other plans. Long-range sensors detected a massive enemy fleet entering the solar system, hundreds of ships strong, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and carriers bristling with weapons and brimming with battle thralls. Their target was Earth. If they could destroy humanity before the alliance with the Rakari could be sealed, the Zorgons' victory would be assured. Earth's defenders scrambled to meet the threat. Squadrons of fighters and bombers took to the skies, while warships moved into defensive positions around the planet. Soldiers manned orbital gun platforms and surface-to-space missile batteries. The stage was set for a battle that would decide the fate of two worlds Earth and Rakkar, a desperate struggle for survival against an implacable foe. Only one thing was certain. By the time the smoke cleared and the dust settled, the galaxy would never be the same again. As the Zorgon fleet closed in on Earth, David Bryant found himself suddenly promoted to the rank of general, a heavy burden placed upon his shoulders as he assumed command of the newly formed United Defense Force. He spent hours huddled with Rakkari tacticians, poring over star maps and battle plans, searching for a way to counter the impending invasion. "If we try to meet them head-on, we'll be slaughtered," Bryant said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We need to be smart about this. We need to find a way to level the playing field." The Rakkari commander, a grizzled veteran named Vortox, pointed to a spot on the map near Mars. "Here," he said, his voice gravelly and thick with accent. "We've been setting up a network of hidden missile platforms and minefields in this region. If we can lure the Zorgons into this area, we might be able to spring a trap." Bryant nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "And your warships? The ones with the advanced weapons and cloaking devices. Can we count on their support?" Vortox grinned, his sharp teeth glinting in the light. "Of course, General. We'll have a contingent of our best ships standing by, ready to join the fray at your command." The plan was set in motion. The human fleet, now equipped with Rakkari shields and plasma weapons, took up defensive positions around Mars, waiting for the Zorgons to take the bait. Bryant watched the screens on the bridge of his flagship, his heart pounding in his chest as the enemy fleet drew closer. As the Zorgons entered the trap, Bryant gave the order, "Now, spring the ambush." Thousands of missiles and mines detonated simultaneously, filling the void of space with blinding flashes of light and shockwaves that rattled the hulls of the human ships. The Zorgon fleet reeled under the onslaught, their ships torn apart by the unexpected barrage. Then the Rakkari warships decloaked, appearing out of nowhere like ghosts. They unleashed a devastating volley of energy beams, slicing through the Zorgon armor like a knife through butter. The human fleet surged forward, engaging the enemy at close range, their plasma weapons spitting fire and fury. The battle raged for hours, the void of space lit up by the flashes of explosions and the streaks of weapons fire. Both sides suffered heavy losses, ships exploding into clouds of debris and bodies tumbling through the vacuum. In the midst of the chaos, Bryant made a daring decision. He gathered a team of his best soldiers and launched a boarding action on the Zorgon flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. They fought their way through the corridors of the alien ship, cutting down Zorgon warriors with plasma rifles and grenades. Finally, they reached the bridge, where they found themselves face to face with the Zorgon commander, a ruthless warlord known as Kazak. The alien towered over Bryant, his four arms each wielding a different weapon. "Surrender, human!" Kazak snarled, his voice dripping with contempt. "You cannot hope to defeat me." The two warriors clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand combat, trading blows and grappling across the bridge. Kazak was strong, but Bryant was faster and more agile. He dodged the alien's attacks and struck back with lightning-fast jabs and kicks. In the end, it was Bryant who emerged victorious, standing over the battered and bloodied form of Kazak. "Surrender," he demanded, his voice hard as steel. With their commander captured and their flagship disabled, the remaining Zorgon forces had no choice but to retreat, fleeing back into the depths of space. The human and Rakkari fleets let out a cheer, celebrating their hard-won victory. But even as they savored their triumph, they knew that the war was far from over. The cost had been high, with thousands of human and Rakkari soldiers dead and many ships destroyed. And as they regrouped and tended to their wounds, a chilling message came through from the Zorgon Empire, a message that made their blood run cold. "This was only the beginning," the message said, the voice of the Zorgon Emperor himself. "The real war is about to begin." In the aftermath of the hard-fought victory, Bryant and Murloc wasted no time interrogating their high-value prisoner, Kazak, the captured Zorgon commander. Under intense questioning, Kazak finally cracked, revealing a chilling secret. The Zorgons were on the verge of completing a devastating superweapon known as the Star Crusher. It's capable of obliterating entire star systems, Kazak spat, his eyes burning with hatred. Once operational, no force in the galaxy will be able to stop us. Bryant and Murloc exchanged grim looks. They knew they had to act fast. According to Kazak, the Star Crusher was being assembled at a heavily fortified Zorgon base on the remote planet Zorax Prime. We have to destroy it before they can use it against Earth or Raka, Bryant said, his jaw set with determination. Murloc nodded. Agreed, but it won't be easy. Zorax Prime is one of the most secure Zorgon installations in the galaxy. They quickly put together a strike team composed of the best human and Rakari soldiers, Bryant's old Navy SEAL comrades, and Murloc's battle-hardened elite warriors. For weeks, the team trained relentlessly, mastering advanced Rakari stealth tech and infiltration tactics. Meanwhile, the UDF and Rakari fleets launched a series of blistering attacks on Zorgon outposts and supply lines across the quadrant, drawing the enemy's attention away from Zorax Prime. When the time was right, Bryant and his team made their move. Disguised as Zorgon troops and flying stolen enemy ships, they slipped past the planet's defenses and landed undetected near the Star Crusher construction site. Moving silently through the shadows, they planted high-yield explosives at key structural points around the massive weapon. But as they were setting the final charge, all hell broke loose. Zorgon alarms blared and searchlights swept the area. The team had been discovered. In seconds, they were pinned down by blistering plasma fire from Zorgon security forces. "We have to get to the control room," Bryant shouted over the din of battle. "It's the only way to ensure the Star Crusher is destroyed." Fighting tooth and nail, they battled their way into the heart of the facility, leaving a trail of Zorgon bodies in their wake. In the control room, they found themselves face to face with the lead Zorgon scientist, Dr. Zorn Kuhl. The gaunt, pale-skinned alien sneered at them. "You're too late," he hissed. "The Star Crusher is already operational. Surrender now, or I will use it to reduce your precious Earth to ashes." Bryant and Murloc locked eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. They knew what had to be done. Together they charged at Zornkul, drawing his fire. As the Zorgon scientist aimed his weapon at Earth's coordinates, ready to activate the Star Crusher, Bryant and Murloc made their move. They tackled Zornkul, grappling with him on the floor. Bryant managed to wrench the firing control from the alien's grasp and hurl it across the room. At the same time, Murloc used his final grenade to blast open the Star Crusher's shielded power core. "Go!" Bryant yelled to the rest of the team. "Get out of here! We'll handle this!" As the strike team raced to escape the doomed facility, Bryant and Murloc made their last stand. With Zornkul dead at their feet, they opened fire on the exposed power core, pouring every ounce of energy from their weapons into it. The resulting explosion was cataclysmic. The entire Zorgon base was vaporized in a blinding flash of light, the shockwave leveling structures for miles around. Bryant and Murloc were consumed instantly, their noble sacrifice ensuring the destruction of the Star Crusher. From orbit, the strike team watched in stunned silence as a massive fireball engulfed Zorax Prime's surface. They had succeeded in their mission, but the cost had been immense. The Zorgon Empire was still out there, reeling from the loss of their superweapon, but more determined than ever to crush the human-Rakari alliance. Bryant and Murloc had bought them precious time, but the war was about to enter a new and even deadlier phase. As the UDF and Rakari regrouped and rearmed, preparing for the next onslaught, they knew that the sacrifices of their fallen comrades would not be in vain. They would fight on, no matter the odds, until the Zorgon threat was vanquished once and for all. The fires of war continued to rage across the stars, the fate of galaxies hanging in the balance, and Earth and Rakar stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the wake of the Star Crusher's demise, the Zorgon Empire reeled in chaos. Seizing their chance, the UDF and Rakari launched an all-out assault, striking at vital Zorgon bases and choking off their supply routes. Reinforcements poured in from Earth, sleek new fighters, battle-tested troops hungry for payback. Among them was Lieutenant Jack Mitchell, a rising star in the UDF. Sharp-minded and lethal in the cockpit, he caught the eye of Admiral Thorne, the fleet's grizzled new commander. Thorne took Mitchell under his wing, grooming him as a protégé. Together they hatched a bold raid on a crucial Zorgan shipyard, a devastating blow to cripple their fleet building. Mitchell led the charge, his fighter squadron shredding through the shipyard's guns and tearing apart its assembly lines in a storm of plasma fire. But the Zorgon struck back hard. A surprise assault on a UDF base left it in ruins, hundreds dead or captured, Thorne among them. Grim-faced, Mitchell got word the captives were locked in a brutal Zorgon prison planet, subjected to vicious interrogation, torture. He volunteered in a heartbeat, handpicking a squad of the UDF's toughest, most skilled commandos and infiltrators. They slipped onto the planet, breaching its defenses with pinpoint stealth. Backs to the wall, they assaulted the prison's command center and met the warden, Commander Zorkul, brother of the slain Dr. Zornkul. Muscled and scarred, murder in his eyes, Zorkul lunged at Mitchell. They clashed in a whirlwind of fists and fury, smashing consoles, cracking bones. Mitchell gave as good as he got, but Zorkul was monstrously strong. Blows hammered Mitchell down. At the last second, Thorne broke free, rallying the other captives. They fell on the Zorgans in a tide of makeshift weapons and rage. Mitchell surged up and locked Zorkul in a death grip. Tendons strained, teeth gritted, Mitchell twisted, and Zorkul's neck snapped. Battered and bloody, they blasted free and fled to a dropship, Zorgan fire nipping their heels. The UDF fleet screamed from orbit, slamming into the Zorgan blockade, carving an escape path. Mitchell's dropship rocketed through the gauntlet, dodging debris and energy blasts. They limped into a UDF carrier's hangar, the fleet jumping to FTL speed as the Zorgans closed in. The intelligence from Thorne and the others was a goldmine, revealing Zorgan weak points to hit hard, but the losses cut deep. Comrades fallen, left behind, soldiers, friends. The UDF and Rakari grieved their slain heroes, and through the pain, the exhaustion, they forged themselves for the long war ahead. This was only the beginning. The intelligence gathered from the Zorgon prison raid proved invaluable. Poring over star maps and intercepted communications, UDF and Rakari strategists zeroed in on a linchpin target, the Zorgon's primary communications hub on planet Zorkesh. Heavily fortified and bristling with guns, the hub coordinated fleet movements and relayed the Zorgon Emperor's orders. Taking it out would cripple their command and control. For this critical mission, the UDF assembled an elite new unit, the Vanguard. Battle-hardened human and Rakari special forces, equipped with the best stealth tech and weapons the Alliance could muster. To lead them, newly promoted Captain Jack Mitchell, hero of the prison raid. Under cover of darkness, the Vanguard's dropships drifted silently onto Zorkesh's jagged surface. Mitchell and his soldiers crept through twisting canyons, Rakari scanning for sensors, humans watching for patrols. At the hub's towering outer walls, they split into infiltration squads. Vanguard techs overrode security locks. A scout sniped sentries with silenced plasma rifles. They ghosted inside, a few disguised teams joining worker throngs, while the rest stalked maintenance tunnels. Laying shaped charges at weak points, they hacked terminals, uploading viruses to disrupt communications and blind sensors. Sci objective nearly complete. Alarms suddenly screamed to life. Blast doors crashed down, trapping the Vanguard as Zorgan troops poured into the corridors. A vicious close-quarters firefight erupted, humans and Rakari fighting back-to-back, assault rifles barking in the tight confines. From the chaos emerged a hulking Zorgon in jet-black armor, Commander Zorthar, the facility's infamous master. Bellowing a war cry, he surged towards Mitchell, monomolecular blades flashing. Mitchell parried desperately, Zorthar's inhuman strength hammering at his defenses. Enhanced muscles straining, Mitchell ducked and dodged, weathering the storm. Zorthar was stronger, but Mitchell was faster. He feinted low, then struck high, blade tip scratching across the Zorgan's eye. Zorthar reeled back, howling. Mitchell seized the split-second opening. His second strike plunged into Zorthar's neck, puncturing armor, severing arteries. The Zorgan commander crashed to the deck, black blood pooling. But Zorthar's dying act had been to smash the alarm. Now klaxons blared, and blast doors rumbled open as more Zorgans sprinted to join the fray. The vanguard had to move. They blasted their way to the landing pads, a running firefight through the hub's twisting corridors. Dropships swooped in, pulse cannons raking the oncoming Zorgans as the vanguard scrambled aboard. Liftoff was a stomach-churning jolt of acceleration. Racing upwards, the dropships reached minimum safe distance. Mitchell jammed his detonator. The communications hub vanished in an actinic flash, 3 kilotons of shaped charges reducing it to molten slag. Zorgan ships around Zorkesh spasmed, suddenly deaf and blind, as the hub's destruction and the Vanguard's viruses rippled through the network. Seizing the moment, UDF and Rakari forces sprang their trap, scything ambushes and pinpoint strikes, cutting into the disoriented enemy. Reeling, the Zorgon line buckled and collapsed on a dozen worlds. The Alliance surged forward, reclaiming star systems in days that had taken months to lose. For the first time, victory seemed within reach. But on the Zorgon throne world, Emperor Zorgoth seethed with rage. He would never surrender, never accept defeat at the hands of lowly humans and their Rakari lackeys. If his empire must burn, then so too would Earth and Rakar. Zorgoth gave the order. The remnants of his once proud armada, millions of soldiers and thousands of ships would gather for one last assault, one final roll of the dice to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat or consign the galaxy to the flames of total war. As reports of the impending attack reached Alliance High Command, grim resolve settled over the leadership. There would be no clever stratagem this time, no daring commando raid to avert Armageddon. Only a colossal clash of arms, a battle to determine the fate of worlds. UDF fleets mustered in Earth orbit as legions of Rakari warships gathered around their homeworld. Armies readied, civilians braced, and soldiers made peace with their gods. And in the eye of the coming storm, Mitchell and the Vanguard prepared for the most crucial mission of the war. Their target, Zorgoth himself. Cut off the serpent's head and the body would die. The Zorgon Emperor's fanatical followers would fight to the end, but without his iron will to bind them together, they would fragment and break. But to reach Zorgoth, the Vanguard would have to pierce the layered defenses of the Zorgan throne world, fight their way into the heart of his palace stronghold, and confront the most powerful and despotic warlord the galaxy had ever known. They would likely not return. Yet for Mitchell and his soldiers, there was no other choice. As the Zorgan armada began its final, fateful advance, the Vanguard struck out towards the enemy capital. Hurtling through the void on the fastest ships in the Alliance fleet, they prayed they would reach Zorgoth in time. The survival of their worlds, the freedom of the galaxy, all rested on their shoulders. The Vanguard's stolen Zorgan dropship knifed through Zorgoth Prime's smoggy atmosphere, its cloaking field shimmering. In the hold, Captain Mitchell checked his plasma rifle and surveyed his strike team. 20 of the UDF and Rakari's deadliest, commandos, demolitions experts, infiltrators. 2 minutes to the drop zone, the pilot called. Scans show a clearing in the mountains 5 clicks from the city. Mitchell nodded. According to Rakari intel, a network of smuggler tunnels snaked beneath the mountains, leading right into the capital, their ticket to the Emperor's doorstep. The dropship settled on the rocky ground with a whine of engines. The Vanguard filed out, fanning into a defensive perimeter. Mitchell scanned the craggy peaks, eyes narrowed. No sign of Zorgons, but he didn't let his guard down. "Let's move," he ordered. "Raxus, take point. Zora, cover our 6. The team moved out in a scattered formation, picking their way through narrow canyons and over jagged ridges. The thin air rasped in Mitchell's rebreather mask. An hour of hard hiking brought them to a hidden crevice, half concealed by boulders. Raxus swept it with a handheld scanner. No life signs or traps. Tunnel entrance dead ahead. They slipped inside, activating low-light visors. The tunnel stretched into the gloom, rough-hewn walls studded with corroded pipes and cabling. Mitchell took the lead, plasma rifle at the ready. Suddenly, a burst of plasma fire seared overhead. Figures erupted from a side tunnel, Zorgon loyalists in battered armor. "Intruders! Kill them!" The vanguard reacted instantly. Mitchell and Raxus dropped to one knee, laying down a withering barrage of plasma bolts. 2 Zorgons tumbled, armor smoking. More Zorgons poured from adjoining tunnels, firing wildly. The vanguard split into fire teams, leapfrogging forward. Plasma sizzled and ricocheted in the confined space. Mitchell lunged and rolled, dodging a volley. He came up firing, stitching a trio of Zorgons across their chests. They crumpled, gurgling. "Frag out," Zora shouted. A micro-grenade arced down the tunnel and exploded, filling the air with shrapnel and smoke. Zorgon screams echoed. The vanguard pressed the attack, using the smoke as cover. They advanced in bounding overwatch, one team firing while the other moved. Raxus hurled a plasma charge, collapsing a tunnel mouth on a group of Zorgons. But the Loyalists fought with desperate ferocity, forcing the vanguard to claw for every meter. Energy bolts crisscrossed in lethal webs. A slug punched through Mitchell's shoulder plate, spinning him around. He gritted his teeth and kept fighting. Slowly, inexorably, superior training and tactics turned the tide. The last Zorgons fell, riddled with plasma burns, but the damage was done. Alarms wailed in the deep, a rising drone of alert tones. "They know we're here now," Raxus growled, slamming a fresh power cell into his rifle. Mitchell's mind raced. The tunnels would be swarming with reinforcements any second. He had to adapt, improvise. "Change of plans," he barked. "We split up. Raxus, take half the team and punch through to the streets, cause as much chaos as you can, draw their fire." "The rest of you, with me," Mitchell ordered. "We're taking the direct route, straight up into the palace." He pulled up a hollow schematic of the palace, gleaned from Rakari scans. A maintenance shaft rose from the tunnels into the palace's sub-levels. From there, they could storm the Empress chambers. It was a desperate play, but Mitchell thrived on desperate plays. The vanguard had come this far. They couldn't fail now. Leaving Raxus and his team to wreak havoc in the streets, Mitchell led his hand-picked squad deeper into the tunnels, towards the beating heart of the Zorgon Empire, towards a tyrant emperor, a terrible secret, and a confrontation that would decide the fate of galaxies. As the last pockets of Zorgon resistance crumbled before the UDF and Rakari advance, a sleek, silver starship shimmered into existence at the edge of the Zorgoth system. Its elegant lines and pulsing energy signatures marked it as a vessel far beyond human or Rakari technology. On the bridge of the UDF flagship, proximity alarms blared. Captain Mitchell spun to face the viewscreen, hand instinctively dropping to his plasma pistol. "Report!" His tactical officer, a grizzled Rakari named Vorkash, studied the sensor readings. "Unknown ship, Captain. Configuration doesn't match anything in our databases. It just appeared out of nowhere." The comm crackled to life. "This is Ambassador Zalcor of the Quilthar. I must speak with your leaders immediately. The fate of the galaxy is at stake." Mitchell exchanged a sharp glance with Admiral Thorne. The Quilthar, the enigmatic race, had rebuffed all attempts at contact, watching from the sidelines as the war raged. For them to emerge now, something momentous must have occurred. Hours later, Mitchell stood ramrod straight in the briefing room, Zalcor's words still ringing in his ears. The Zorgons, thieves, the orb of Quilthar, a reality-warping weapon of terrifying power. And now, hidden away in a secret base, being twisted for unthinkable purposes. "You understand the severity of the situation," Zalcor said, his obsidian eyes boring into Mitchell's. "If the orb is not recovered, if its energies are unleashed unchecked, the very fabric of space-time will unravel. Everything you fought for, everything you sacrificed, it will have been for nothing." Mitchell's jaw clenched. He thought of Bryant and Murloc, of the countless soldiers who had laid down their lives. No, he would not let their deaths be in vain. "We'll find the orb," he vowed. "We'll stop the Zorgons, whatever it takes." The Vanguard strike team assembled in the hangar bay, checking weapons and armor. Mitchell walked the line, meeting each soldier's eyes. Humans and Rakari, united by a bond forged in the crucible of war. "This is it," he said, his voice hard as steel. "One last mission, one last chance to end this, once and for all." The team boarded their stealth shuttle, sliding through the void toward Zorkul. They made planetfall under the cover of darkness, the shuttle's black hull blending with the night. They approached the research facility on foot, a squat fortified compound bristling with sensors and gun turrets. Mitchell signaled, and the vanguard split into two elements. One, led by Sergeant Kira, would create a diversion, drawing the defenders' attention. The other, with Mitchell at the head, would infiltrate the base and seize the orb. Kira's team struck first, plasma charges blasting a hole in the perimeter wall. Alarms shrieked and Zorgon troops poured from the barracks, rushing to repel the attack. Mitchell's unit slipped in through the breach, hugging the shadows. They advanced through the twisting corridors, neutralizing guards with ruthless efficiency. Silenced plasma shots scorched armor. Lethal neurotoxin darts found gaps in scales. They breached the inner sanctum, a cavernous laboratory thrumming with arcane energies. And there, suspended in a crackling containment field, was the orb. But they weren't alone. Dr. Zorkil stepped from the shadows, flanked by a phalanx of nightmarish creatures, Zorgon soldiers, but warped and augmented, muscles bulging beneath chitinous armor, eyes glowing with unnatural light. "You're too late," Zorkil sneered. "The orb's power is mine to command. With these enhanced warriors at my disposal, nothing can stop me. Not you, not your pathetic alliance. I will reshape the galaxy in my image." The vanguard opened fire as one, plasma bolts and grenades ripping into the advancing horde. The super soldiers shrugged off the barrage, closing with terrifying speed. It was a battle out of legend, titanic and savage. Mitchell ducked and wove, his power sword flashing, carving through armored hide and bone. His soldiers fought with desperate valor, but one by one they fell, borne down by the relentless onslaught. The orb tumbled into his hands, pulsing with eldritch light. Zorkil howled in rage, but Mitchell was already moving, sprinting for the exit as the lab collapsed behind him in a gout of flame. He burst from the compound, the orb clutched to his chest. Kira and her team, the ragged survivors, closed around him, laying down covering fire as they fell back to the extraction point. They made it to the shuttle by a hair's breadth, Zorgon plasma scorching their heels. As they rocketed into the sky, Mitchell collapsed against the bulkhead, the orb secure in a shielded case. On the Quilthar ship, Zalcor took possession of the orb with solemn reverence. The alien's face was unreadable as he surveyed the haunted, battle-weary soldiers. "You have done a great service, Captain Mitchell," he said. "The orb will be secured, its powers contained, but I fear your trials are not yet over. This Dr. Zorkil and his creations, they will not rest until they have wrought vengeance upon you." Mitchell's grip tightened on his rifle. Zorkil was still out there, with gods only knew how many of those twisted monster soldiers. The vanguard had struck a devastating blow, but the war was not yet won. The hunt was on. The hunt was on. Captain Mitchell and the battle-hardened soldiers of the vanguard, the UDF's most elite unit, raced across the stars in pursuit of the renegade Zorgon scientist Dr. Zorkil and his army of genetically enhanced super soldiers. Intelligence reports and long-range scans led them to the remote, uncharted world of Zorzak, on the fringes of Zorgon space. As they approached the planet, the reason for Zorkil's choice of base became clear. The surface was a maze of heavily fortified bunker complexes and sprawling underground weapons factories, bristling with enough firepower to hold off an armada. Mitchell gathered his team in the drop bay of their stealth frigate, going over the plan one last time. "We'll be outnumbered 100 to 1 down there," he said, his eyes hard. "Zorkil's super soldiers are faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything we've faced before. But we're the vanguard. We've never backed down from a fight, and we're sure as hell not starting now." The team checked their weapons, plasma rifles, EMP grenades, vibroblades, and donned their power armor, the most advanced combat exoskeletons the UDF had to offer. They were as ready as they'd ever be. The dropship punched through the atmosphere, anti-air fire streaking past the hull. They hit the ground hard, the ship's ramp slamming down, and the vanguard poured out, weapons spitting plasma. It was chaos from the first second. Swarms of super soldiers, their armor midnight black, and their eyes glowing with unnatural light, surged towards the human lines. Plasma bolts and explosions lit the gloom as the vanguard fought back with everything they had. Mitchell was in the thick of it, his rifle bucking in his hands, each shot vaporizing Zorgon flesh and metal. His team pushed forward, leapfrogging from cover to cover, laying down suppressing fire for each other. They blasted their way into one of the bunker entrances, the massive blast door crumpling under a barrage of plasma charges. Inside was a warren of corridors and chambers, swarming with more super soldiers. The fighting was brutal in close quarters, a nerve-shredding blur of muzzle flashes, ricocheting plasma, and crunching metal. The vanguard slammed into the Zorgons like a hammer, smashing through their defenses with raw tenacity and superior skill. And everywhere they saw evidence of Zorkil's mad work. Assembly lines churning out more enhanced soldiers, bubbling vats of genetic material, racks of augmetic weapons and organs. The rogue scientist was building a legion, an army to conquer the galaxy and forge a new Zorgon empire from the ashes of the old. They couldn't let that happen. The vanguard pushed deeper into the complex, overloading reactors, sabotaging ammunition stores, turning Zorkil's own factories into giant bombs. The explosions shook the planet, collapsing tunnels and bunkers, burying the Zorgon machinery under millions of tons of rubble. But there was no time to rest. Mitchell led the charge towards the central command bunker, where Zorkil himself was sure to be. They blew the doors and stormed inside, plasma bolts whining, and found themselves face to face with the scientist's elite guard, the deadliest of his super soldiers. It was a massacre. Plasma fire crisscrossed the chamber. Soldiers screamed and died. In the melee, Mitchell found himself cut off from his team, alone against a towering Zorgon warrior. He looked up into the soulless eyes of Dr. Zorkil himself, encased in a hulking exoskeleton bristling with weapons. The rogue scientist's voice boomed from external speakers, filled with madness and twisted ambition. "You're too late, Mitchell. My soldiers are already spreading across the stars. The galaxy will be mine." Mitchell raised his rifle, his face grim. "Not on my watch." They crashed together like thunder, trading blows that would have shattered concrete. Zorkil's exosuit was monstrously powerful, its servos whining as it rained down punches and plasma bolts. But Mitchell was faster, his honed reflexes and combat instincts guiding him. He ducked and weaved, his own rifle spitting fire, searching for a weak point. There. A hairline fracture in the exoskeleton's chest plate, the result of some previous battle. Mitchell lunged, slamming his rifle butt into the breach with all his strength. Something cracked and Zorkil howled, the suit's internal systems shorting out. The Zorgon scientist was thrown clear as the exoskeleton collapsed, sparking and twitching. Mitchell advanced on the fallen Zorgon, his rifle trained on his head. "It's over, Zorkil, surrender." But the scientist only cackled, scrabbling for a fallen console. "Never, if I can't have the galaxy, no one will." Mitchell saw Zorkil's claws dance across the controls, initializing a self-destruct sequence. A countdown blared and warning lights flashed crimson. No choice, no hesitation. Mitchell fired and Zorkil slumped, a smoking hole in his head. They ran, plasma bolts and falling debris chasing their heels. They barely made it to the dropship before the bunker imploded, a plume of fire and ash erupting into the sky. From orbit they watched as the surface of Zorzak rippled with secondary explosions, the underground labyrinth collapsing in on itself like a house of cards. It was over. Zorkil was dead, his monstrous creations buried forever. The galaxy had been saved, but at a terrible cost. As the vanguard flew back to the main fleet, Mitchell couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. New threats would rise from the ashes of the old, and the UDF would have to be ready to meet them. For now, though, there was a brief moment of peace. a chance to honor the fallen, and to begin the long, slow process of rebuilding. The Quilthar and Rakari had pledged their support, and together they would forge a new alliance, a bulwark against the darkness. But even as the celebrations began, even as the heroes were welcomed home, a new mystery stirred in the shadows. A mystery that would test the resolve of the UDF and its allies and plunge the galaxy once more into the fires of war. As the dust settled on the shattered remnants of the Zorgan Empire, Captain Mitchell and the battle-hardened soldiers of the Vanguard found themselves thrust into a new mission. UDF Command had detected a mysterious signal emanating from an uncharted region of space, and the Vanguard was tasked with investigating its source. Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UDF Dauntless, his eyes fixed on the holographic star map floating before him. The signal pulsed like a beacon, drawing them deeper into the unknown. "Helm, set a course for the signal's origin point," Mitchell ordered. "Comms, alert the crew to prepare for potential hostile contact." The Dauntless surged forward, its engines flaring as it leapt into FTL. For days they traveled through the void, the mysterious signal growing stronger with each passing hour. Finally, they emerged from FTL at the edge of a desolate star system. The signal was close, almost overwhelming in its intensity. Mitchell leaned forward in his command chair, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the view screen. There, orbiting a lifeless, rocky planet, was a massive space station. It hung in the void like a dark, twisted monolith, its hull pitted and scarred by the ravages of time. No lights shone from its viewports, no energy signatures pulsed from its engines. It was derelict, abandoned. Minutes later, Mitchell and a hand-picked team of Vanguard operatives stood in the Dauntless's hangar bay, checking their weapons and sealing their armor. They boarded a heavily armed dropship and launched towards the derelict station. As they approached, the sheer scale of the structure became apparent. It was vast, easily dwarfing the largest UDF battleships. Its hull was composed of an unknown alloy, dark and iridescent, with strange alien geometries etched into its surface. They docked at an airlock near the station's equator, the dropship's clamps latching onto the ancient metal with a dull clang. Mitchell was the first to step through the airlock, his boots ringing on the deck plates. The interior of the station was dark, the air thin and stale. Beams of light from the Vanguard's helmet lamps cut through the gloom, revealing corridors that stretched into the distance, their walls lined with alien hieroglyphs and strange, pulsing conduits. They moved deeper into the station, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Every chamber they entered was filled with technology beyond anything they had ever seen. Vast, crystalline computer banks, shimmering holodisplays, and towering machines of inscrutable purpose. As they entered a cavernous chamber at the heart of the station, a sudden flash of light blinded them. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, towering over the Vanguard soldiers. It was a figure clad in ornate, sculpted armor, its face hidden behind an impassive, featureless mask. The Vanguard soldiers raised their weapons, but the hologram held up a hand. "Peace," it said. "I mean you no harm. I am the Overseer, the guiding intelligence of this station." Mitchell stepped forward, his rifle lowered but ready. "What is this place?" he demanded. "Why have you brought us here?" The Overseer was silent for a moment, as if considering its words. This station was created by the Protheans, an ancient race that once ruled the galaxy. For millennia, they guided the evolution and development of younger species, shaping them to their will. A chill ran down Mitchell's spine. "Shaping them? What do you mean?" The Protheans saw the galaxy as a grand game board, with each species a pawn to be moved and manipulated. They seeded worlds with life, guided evolution, and nurtured civilizations, all to further their own enigmatic agenda. The Overseer waved a hand, and the air shimmered with holographic displays. Mitchell saw images of Earth, of the Rakari homeworld, of a dozen other planets he recognized, and he saw the Protheans, tall and slender, their faces hidden behind masks, moving among the primitive peoples of each world, guiding and shaping them. The humans, the Rakari, the Zorgans, All of you were shaped by the Protheans, molded to their design. Your wars, your alliances, your very existence, all of it was orchestrated by them, part of their grand experiment. Mitchell felt a cold knot of horror tighten in his gut. The war, the Zorgons, it was all part of their plan. The Overseer nodded. The Protheans pitted you against each other, engineered conflicts and alliances, all to gather data on your capabilities, to test the limits of their creations. Sergeant Kira stepped forward, her face twisted with anger. We fought and died in that war. We lost friends, family, and you're telling us it was all just some sick game. The Overseer remained impassive. The Protheans cared nothing for your individual lives. You were pieces on a board, tools to be used and discarded. Mitchell's mind reeled with the implications. Everything they had fought for, everything they had believed in, it had all been a lie, a simulation orchestrated by an alien race long dead. No, he said, his voice shaking with rage. I won't accept that. We have to destroy this place, destroy any trace of the Protheans and their manipulations. The Overseer shook its head. You cannot destroy this station, Captain. It is the last repository of Prothean knowledge, the key to their power. With it, you could rule the galaxy, shape the destiny of billions. Mitchell raised his rifle, aiming it at the hologram. I don't want to rule the galaxy. I want my people to be free, to choose their own path. The Overseer laughed, a cold metallic sound. Freedom is an illusion, Captain. You have always been a pawn, and you always will be. Suddenly the station shuddered, the deck plates buckling beneath their feet. Alarms blared and lights flashed as the ancient machinery came to life, responding to some unseen command. It's activating the station's defenses, Kira shouted, her rifle raised. We have to get out of here. But Mitchell knew it was too late. The Overseer was too powerful, the station's technology too advanced. They could fight, but they could not win. No, he said, his voice calm despite the chaos raging around him. We have to end this once and for all. He turned to his team, his eyes hard. Get back to the dropship, evacuate the station. That's an order, Sergeant, Mitchell snapped. I'll overload the station's power core. It's the only way to destroy the Overseer and the Prothean technology. The Vanguard soldiers hesitated, torn between their loyalty to their captain and their instinct for survival. But Mitchell's gaze was unwavering, and one by one they nodded and turned to run back towards the airlock. Mitchell watched them go, then turned and sprinted deeper into the station, towards the pulsing heart of the power core. The Overseer's laughter echoed in his ears, taunting him, mocking his efforts. But Mitchell ignored it, focusing on his task. He reached the core chamber, a vast pulsing sphere of energy that thrummed with the power of 1,000 suns. He slammed his fist into the control panel, overriding the safeties and setting the core to overload. Alarms shrieked, and warning lights flashed as the core began to destabilize, the energy within it building to a cataclysmic crescendo. Mitchell turned to run, but a bolt of searing pain shot through his body, bringing him to his knees. The Overseer's hologram materialized before him, its blank mask staring down at him. Foolish human, it said. You cannot stop the Protheans' plan. Even in death, we will continue to shape the destiny of the galaxy. Mitchell gritted his teeth and forced himself to his feet, ignoring the pain that racked his body. Maybe, he said, his voice a ragged whisper. But we'll be free to fight you, every step of the way. With a final defiant roar, Mitchell charged towards the core, his body blazing with the heat of 1,000 suns. The Overseer's hologram flickered and vanished, and the station shuddered as the core reached critical mass. In the depths of space, the Vanguard dropship fled the station, its engines straining as it raced towards the safety of the Dauntless. Behind it, the station erupted in a blinding flash of light, a miniature supernova that consumed the ancient Prothean technology and the secrets it held. On board the dropship, Kira and the other soldiers watched in stunned silence as the station vanished in a maelstrom of energy. They had escaped, but the cost had been high. Captain Mitchell, their leader and friend, was gone, sacrificing himself to destroy the Overseer and the Prothean legacy. As the Dauntless jumped to FTL, leaving the shattered remains of the station behind, the Vanguard soldiers sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They had won a great victory, but the revelation of the Protheans' manipulations had shaken them to their core. In the weeks and months that followed, the news of the Protheans' existence and their manipulation of the younger races spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The UDF, the Rakari, and even the remnants of the Zorgon Empire were forced to confront the fact that their entire history, their very existence, had been shaped by an alien race long dead. The alliance between the races, once so strong, began to fracture as old rivalries and suspicions resurfaced. Each species looked at the others with new eyes, wondering if they were truly friends or merely pawns in some cosmic game. And in the shadows, a mysterious figure watched and waited, its eyes fixed on the stars. The Protheans' plan had been set in motion long ago, and even the destruction of the station and the Overseer could not stop it. The game was far from over, and the fate of the galaxy still hung in the balance. For Captain Mitchell and the Vanguard, their fight was over, but for the rest of the galaxy a new struggle was just beginning. A struggle to forge their own destiny, free from the machinations of ancient alien powers. It would be a long and difficult road, fraught with danger and uncertainty. But it was a road they would walk together, united by the bonds of friendship and the unquenchable human spirit. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.